We're back here in the tackle room, and today we're talking about how to make your spring bass fishing as easy as 1, 2, 3. Stick around, we're going to talk all about it. And if you're a new angler, you really don't want to miss this one. Got him. Oh, that's a good one. Come on now. That's a big bass. Come on now. Boy, howdy strikes again. And here is this video's featured comment. Congratulations! If you would like to have a chance to have your comment featured in an upcoming video, all you've got to do is leave a comment. And now, on with the video. Welcome back to Lowbrow Fishing. And if you ask any bass angler, they will pretty much give you the same answer. Springtime is the easiest time of year for bass fishing, especially during the pre-spawn. As those bass are coming out of a long cold winter, they're waking up, they're shaking off the sluggishness, and they are voracious. They are eating so many things in sight, whether it's crawl, shiners, bluegill, they are going after everything. And that means the learning curve for bass fishing, well, it's not nearly as bad, and you have a lot more margin for error. You don't have to be nearly as on point as you would, say, during the heat of summer or in the dead of winter. You can experiment just a little bit and try new techniques and maybe find new confidence baits. But a lot of times we get out on the water and we have information overload, don't we? We've seen all of the YouTube videos, we looked at all the old TV shows, and we even study things like Tackle Warehouse, Bass Pro Academy, all these fishing sites. So we feel we've got all the pieces of the puzzle together. All the dots are connected. We know what lure goes with what situation, and we feel, that we can go out there and catch a lot of fish. But when we're actually out there, we freeze up. We really don't know what's going on because we've got too much going in our head. We choose the wrong bait. We second guess ourselves. So today, I just want to peel everything back to its essence. We want to be as simple as we possibly can. And we're going to break things up into 3 separate layers. And we're going to break each one of those layers up into 2 distinct sections. And the way we're going to do that is going to be fairly simple. See, we're talking about the water column. And the water column essentially just refers to the different depth zones of the water that we fish. Top water, the middle part, and then the bottom. And once we do that and we just use a couple of presentations at a couple of different colors, we can pretty much work all the water a whole bunch of different ways, and we did it very simply. So by the end of this video, hopefully you'll have a very good understanding of the basics of bass fishing, especially during the spring, and you can expand from there. You'll have 80% of what you need to know. Now, the first thing we want to talk about is topwater, and that's the very top layer. That is the most fun and exciting bite. When you get a topwater blow up and that bass comes up and inhales your bait and the water splashes, and you know that fight is on, it is very exhilarating. We wait all year for the water to warm up so we can do that. And one of the best things that I like to use, well, is this topwater walking bait. This is a Yo-Zuri, but the brand doesn't matter. A Heddon Spook will work, a Berkley Jaywalker, or whatever your favorite brand is. Now, this is in a bone color, and for me, topwater and bone color go together like peanut butter and jelly, which we'll save that for later. But this bone-colored spook, or walking bait, as it were, is amazing when that water gets warm enough where those bass are going to start biting topwater. And it doesn't have to be nearly as warm as you think it does. I'm hearing from guys in Michigan where the water is around 50 degrees that they're getting blown up on topwater. But a bone-colored walking bait can be amazing. You can cover water with this. You cast it out and you work it back. It's got that walking action. The only downside is you're going to have to practice with this to get that walking cadence down. And it's not something that's going to take too long. And once you figure it out, you'll be able to work it at different speeds, different tempos, and you can walk and cast. If you're a bank angler, if you're in the boat, well, you can drift along or troll along wherever it is that you're trying to fish whichever, down a bank or down a creek arm or whatever, and you'll be able to work this as you go. And when you do get that blow up and that fish goes after your bait, that's when you can stop and you can pause a little bit and you can begin to pick that area apart completely. So bone colored walking bait, that's going to be the first thing. This will allow you to cover water. If I'm slowing down a little bit and I'm going to make targeted casts at a dock, a brush pile, a stump, or something of that nature, I'm going to go from covering water to specific targets that I want to cast to. Well, then I'm going to go to something like a popper. Again, bone colored. This is great. Keep it nice and simple. We keep it bone colored and we can just work one color and it works amazingly well. If we do use another color, we'll get into that in just a second. Now this, I'm going to be working in very specific areas. I'm going to make targeted casts with this. I know exactly where I want to work it. Give it a couple of pops, let it pause, let those rings dissipate. Give it a couple of pops, let it pause, let those rings dissipate. Another great bait for something like that, if you don't want to use a popper, is, well, something like this Boy Howdy. And this is the tail weighted one. Again, this is a bone color, and you can work this very similar to a popper. You give it a couple of pops, it'll spit a little bit, and then you let it sit there. Again, this is bone color. We're going to make those targeted casts with it. And this thing right here, this is what has caught me a lot of those big bass. A lot of the biggest bass that I caught all of last year on topwater were on this particular Boy Howdy. I caught a couple that were in that 5-pound range, and it was really a lot of fun to catch on this. So a bone-colored walking bait and a bone-colored, more targeted bait for working cover and making specific casts. Now another color we can fish in conjunction with that bone on the other end of the spectrum is black. Keep it very simple, bone colored and black. This again is another popper. This is, I believe, in Ozark Trails, and this little thing has caught some really nice bass for me. Now I'm using this in different conditions. I'm using this in more low light conditions whenever, there's a lot of cloud cover, or it's early in the morning, or it's, dusk dark, or even at night. This is what I'm using to make those targeted casts, and it has been super, super effective for me. This is another one of those baits that caught me a lot of those bigger fish over the last couple of years, whenever I'm fishing it in the right instances. So during the daytime, we've got bluebird skies overhead, maybe a little bit of wind, maybe, it really doesn't really matter how much wind you have, but it can work in wind and it can work in calm. I'm going with that white color. If it's a little bit brighter out, the water's a little bit clear. If we've got some stain, if we've got some overcast skies, then I'm going to be working something, again, we've got a Boy Howdy and this one is black. And that's what I'm doing. I'm working with bone color and I'm working with black. I'm going to go with a walking bait and I'm going to go with something I can make some targeted casts. Keep it nice and simple. You've got so many different things covered with just that right there. You can cover water, you can make targeted casts, and you find that you are able to put yourself on more fish just by keeping things very simple. Now, next up, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going down a little bit and working more that intermediate middle level of the water column. It doesn't matter if you're on a boat, doesn't matter if you're working from the bank, these will work just fine for you. And starting out with something like this. This is a Strike King Hybrid Hunter. It's got that nice bill on there, and this can be just as effective from the boat as it is from the bank. This will come through a lot of that grass just fine. It's got that angle bill, and once you figure out how to work it, once you learn how to work it in cleaner areas and then bring it into the dirtier areas, you can run this right along grass seams, you can run it right under docks, right along rock piles, and this thing gets bites. There's been a lot of hype over these things for the past couple of years, and I'm here to tell you, I discovered the hard way. These things are legit. I like this color right here. This is just a simple, it's got a little pink. It's almost like a salmon pattern, but this is the color that I like the best. This is the one that I've had the most success on, and this is the one that turned me into a real believer with these. Now, another bait that we can use and have a lot of effect with is, well, good old spinnerbait. So, again, we're keeping it simple. We're going with white. A black one will work. I like the tandem blades with the Willow and the Colorado, this is going to work for most situations. So don't worry about 17,000 different types of blades. Just your regular tandem blades will work fine. And white will get it done on most days. Now on a cloudier day, you might want to go with a darker color, but for the most part, this is going to be what you need. And I've just got just a little Rage Swimmer, just a regular Rage Swimmer as my trailer on there. And if you want to, you can even skip the trailer part and you can still have, just a smaller bit of a presentation and it'll work just fine. So those are a couple of options that you can use for the middle part of the water column whenever you're searching, whenever you're covering water. And when it's time to slow down after you've caught a fish, after you want to work an area and pick it apart, well, that's when I'm going to be going to something like, a soft plastic jerkbait. I can use this weightless and I can use it on a hover rig. I can rig it like a Texas rig and I can get a lot of bites doing that. And this is going to be one of the colors that I use. It's just regular watermelon, or you can use green pumpkin. This is great for imitating sunfish, for going after those bass who are on a sunfish bite. If you look down, you see bluegill or shellcracker or whatever in that water, and you want to imitate that, then this can be a great color for that. And another color we can use is, just regular old pearl white, like this Zoom Super Fluke. And this can imitate shad, it can imitate shiner, it can imitate so many different types of bait fish, and it works so well when paired with this green caffeine shad. Again, they can be used in tandem. You can switch things up, and these will cover nearly everything that you have to work for whenever you're out there fishing. Again, you're going to stop and maybe work the water a little bit more than you want to. You see a laydown you want to work, you see a stump you want to work. You can pull this out and work it on a weightless Texas rig, and I even like working these on a hover rig, a smaller 1/8 ounce hover rig, and you will get some really nice monster bites. So again, that's the middle of the water column where you can work a square bill, you can work a hybrid hunter, you can work a spinnerbait, and just keep the color simple. You want a light color, you want a dark color. That's what's going to work best for you. Now, lastly, we've got the bottom, and there are some really good techniques for the bottom, but we're going to stick with one in particular. And if you're a regular of this channel, you already know where I'm going, a jig. This is a small 1/4 ounce Bitsy Flip. This is just a little bit more heavy than the regular Bitsy bug. It's a 1/4 ounce jig. I've got a custom skirt on it. This is one that I made. And I have a stick bait on here. I've got half of a 5-inch stick bait, and this is one of the custom stick baits that I make. It's a bluegill imitation, so it's got that orange in there. So I like having that bluegill profile. It works great on my leg. But this green colored jig, 1/4 ounce jig or 3/8 jig, if you're from the bank, if you're on a boat, you might want to go 3/8 to a 1/2 ounce, depending on how shallow you want to fish. But just keep it nice and simple. This green jig will get you some really nice bites. On the other end of the spectrum, brown. Either brown or green. Now this is a football jig, but this is, pretty much the same thing. I've got that brown craw on there, and those are the two color patterns that I'm going to be choosing most of the time. For 90% of my jig fishing, these are the two that I get most of my bites on year round. The only other time that I might switch things up is if I go to a black and blue or something for darker water fishing. But again, as we said, keep things simple. And when you're working these, you can drag them along the bottom. You can hop them along the bottom. They will lend themselves to different retrieves. So you can try it out. You might be able to pop it up, crank it a little bit, and then let it sit. But a jig is a great way to catch fish in the pre-spawn and during the springtime. And if you're not good with jigs, if you don't have confidence in jigs, the spring is a great time to learn. So there you have it. Some easy ways to peel back all the layers and close out all the noise, to focus on the very basics and get a rhythm going. Whether you're an advanced angler, whether you're brand new to the sport, I'm sure these tips and tricks will help you keep your focus and catch more bass. Thanks for watching Lowbrow Fishing. We'll catch you in the next one.